All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're unpacking a remarkably simple yet profoundly powerful story straight from our source material. It's a narrative that cuts right to the absolute core of our motivation in life. We're talking about the value of time. It's something we all have, something we all spend, and yet it's probably the thing we take for granted the most. I promise you, by the end of our time together today, you might just look at the clock on your wall a little bit differently.
I want you to pause for a second and really ponder this impossible transaction before we get into the story. If you could buy back one lost second of your life, how much would you pay? Seriously, what is the going rate for a single moment you can never, ever get back? Keep that question rolling around in your head as we explore a fascinating story about a father trying to answer exactly that for his kid.
Section 1. The Lazy Son's Problem. Our story kicks off in a quiet village, focusing on a father who is carrying a deep, heavy worry for his totally aimless son. Now, this wasn't just some minor rebellious phase or a brief lack of motivation. This was a genuine, serious problem. The son was incredibly lazy, completely careless, and, according to the story, he had literally never worked a single day in his life. Instead of building a future or learning a trade, he just wandered around the village all day long. He was letting the most precious resource he had just slip right through his fingers, and his poor dad had to sit there and watch it happen in real time. Desperate to get through to him, the father decides to teach his son a lesson, but he doesn't go the route of a harsh lecture or some strict punishment. Instead, he just calls his boy over and hands him an old watch from the cupboard. It's a totally mundane, everyday object. But the father is a clever guy, and he's about to use this simple little piece of machinery to kick off a really profound, life-altering lesson. Which brings us to Section 2, the first test, money. The father tells his son to take this watch down to the local market and just ask people what it's worth. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer variety of answers the boy gets. He shows the exact same physical, mechanical watch to different people, and they give him wildly varying monetary values. One villager says, hey, it's worth 500 rupees. Another guy confidently claims it's worth 800. And a third person absolutely insists it's worth a full 1,000 rupees. So the boy goes back home and reports all this to his dad. Everyone gave a completely different price and nobody could agree. Sure, maybe a few folks threw out similar numbers, but there was absolutely no universal consensus on what this object was actually worth. The father just smiles. Why? Because this perfectly proves his first point. Tangible value, when we're talking about material objects, is entirely subjective. It completely changes depending on who you happen to ask. So he tells the boy to put the watch away for the night. And this leads to a major shift in the story. Section 3, the second test, time. The very next day, the dad gives him a follow-up test that totally defies normal logic. And this brilliantly illustrates the crux of the father's master plan. On day 1, they looked for the price of the physical watch, right? But on day 2, he tells the boy, don't ask the price of the watch today. I want you to ask people the price of the time inside this watch. He shifts the focus entirely away from the object and onto the abstract, invisible concept of time itself. I mean, just imagine walking up to a random stranger on the street and asking them this exact question. How much is the time inside this watch worth? When his dad told him to do this, the son was so confused. It sounded like total nonsense to him. But being an obedient kid, he went back to the market to ask this bizarre question to anyone who would actually listen to him. Well, unsurprisingly, the market crowd did not take this well. The boy faced outright mockery. People looked at him like he was crazy, they openly laughed in his face, or just told him to scram. Some completely dismissed the whole thing, calling it a totally foolish question. You can easily imagine how incredibly isolating, frustrating, and just downright embarrassing this was for him. He was literally becoming the joke of the village. The story describes how the boy felt just so sad and deeply embarrassed by all this constant rejection, but eventually that embarrassment led him to duck into a quiet, tiny shop tucked away from the main crowd. Inside, there was an old shopkeeper busy repairing watches. When the boy nervously mumbled his completely foolish-sounding question again, the old watchmaker didn't laugh at him. He paused his work, looked up with a really kind smile, and he actually understood the incredible weight of what the boy was trying to figure out. Section 4, the watchmaker's wisdom. We've hit the emotional climax of our story, where the boy finally gets a real answer. The old man spoke really softly to the boy, delivering a truth that changes absolutely everything. He said,
Son, you can give millions of rupees, but you cannot buy back even 1 second of your life. Wow, what a profound piece of wisdom. It instantly shatters the whole idea that money is our most valuable asset. The watchmaker is telling him that because you literally cannot put a price tag on a single second, you absolutely have to use your time wisely. He then expands on this beautifully, explaining the dual nature of time. The harsh reality, the bad news, is that it passes unceasingly no matter who you are, no matter what you do. But the empowering choice, the good news, is that you get to choose exactly how to spend it. Time is going to pass without your permission, for sure. But how it's utilized, that is entirely within your control. So the crucial point is this bold number right here, 24. The watchmaker points out that every single person in this world has exactly 24 hours in a day. It's the great, undeniable equalizer of humanity. The rich and the poor both share this exact same constraint. A billionaire cannot just buy a 25th hour, and someone who's flat broke doesn't get shortchanged with 23. Every single one of us gets this exact same daily allotment. So naturally, the only true differentiator in this world, the only thing that separates a really successful, fulfilled life from a totally wasted one, is simply how we use those hours. Which brings us to our final section, the priceless asset. Let's look at the massive, life-altering impact this revelation had on the son, and more importantly, what it means for us. The boy's eyes just filled with understanding. Something fundamental finally clicked inside of him. He thanked the old man, ran all the way home, and told his father everything. And his dad, he just smiled with pure pride. Because from that exact day forward, the boy started working hard. He started using his time wisely. He stopped wasting his days aimlessly wandering around the village. Deeply internalizing the true, irreplaceable value of a single moment literally cured his laziness on the spot. He finally got what his dad was trying to teach him all along. Hey, think about the ultimate paradox of time for a second. It's completely free for everyone, yet it is absolutely priceless. You can't buy it, and you certainly can't lock it away in a vault to save for later. Once it's gone, it is gone forever. But you can use it, you can spend it. The choice is entirely yours, and it's handed to you fresh every single morning. Which leaves us with one final, unavoidable, and lingering thought for today. The clock is ticking on your 24 hours right now. How will you use yours? Don't just wander through it like the boy did at the start of our story. Take control of your time. Invest it in what actually matters, and always remember its true value. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you in the next one.